My journey to Canada started in 1967 January, and it started with a very small town called Capreol, Ontario. So I left India on January 14th, 1967, and I arrived here on January 15th, I think, 1967. My flight was from New Delhi, India to Toronto, Canada. And after we arrived Toronto, we took a train, a CN rail train to Capreol, Ontario. And this is the Capreol train station. It was freezing cold. It was minus 40 degrees outside, which is pretty typical for Capreol winters back in the 1960s. This is the type of train I took. And the platform in the train station looks about the same. I had never felt that kind of cold before. It was minus 40 outside. I still remember the smell of the air. So this is where I arrived. After arriving, my dad took us to our home. This was the location, but back then it was a motel, Gibson's Motel. We had the basement apartment. This is our family. About a week after we arrived. You could see I was still wearing Indian clothing at the time. It was super cold to go outside. I still remember the cold and the utter loneliness I felt. Going from living with an extended family, with uncles, aunts, and cousins, to living in the basement of this motel with just a nuclear family was shockingly lonely. Soon my dad enrolled me in school. There was a Catholic school just across the way. I'll show it to you. That gray building up ahead was St. Mary's Catholic Elementary School. And this is what I looked like. My dad worked next door at Capreol High School. I'll show it to you. This red building was Capreol High School. My dad was the vice principal there. Next to Capreol train station is downtown Capreol, and this is downtown Capreol. We'd come here mainly to see the movies. That building, which is now Home Hardware, was the Odeon movie theater. I think my first movie was The Sound of Music. I also remember seeing The Ten Commandments and a comedy called It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. Also, I saw a movie called Paddle to the Sea. Paddle to the Sea was a Canadian Film Board production, a 20-minute movie, but it really left its mark on my memories. In the movie, there's a little Indigenous boy who carves a toy canoe and sets it afloat on a Canadian river, and the little canoe makes it out to the sea. This is the Vermilion River, which runs through Capreol. It's a very pretty little river. This was the only grocery store in town. It was called the IGA. My mother would get all of our groceries from here. I would help her get the groceries and bring them home. Right next to the grocery store was the Vermilion River. So, inspired by the movie Paddle to the Sea, out of my loneliness and missing my dear grandmother Nimama, I hand wrote a note and put it into an old jar and sealed it up and set it free here by walking down to the river and putting my little Bengali message in a bottle and setting it afloat here in this spot on the river. I thought my grandmother Nimama would be able to find it, the bottle, and the bottle would go all the way from here into the Atlantic Ocean, into the Indian Ocean, and find its way to my dear grandmother, Nimama. Memories of a child. In 1968, we moved from Capreol to Sudbury. We moved from a basement apartment in a motel to a proper apartment building. It's coming up on your right-hand side. 1140 Ramsey View Court. This is 1140 Ramsey View Court, that gray building with the balconies, just on your right-hand side. If you see the little balcony just to the right of those two red umbrellas, that was apartment 418. I lived here from age 8 to age 12. This is me and my mother in the apartment 418 when I was age 9 or 10. We lived in apartment 418 for 4 years. Then we moved to a different apartment in the same building. The apartment number was 508. The big upgrade was that I had my own room because it was a 2-bedroom apartment. You can see apartment 508 right here. It's 2 down from the top on the right-hand side. I lived in apartment 508 for 5 years, from age 12 to age 18. Back to the front of 1140 Ramsey View Court, and just down this little trail was a trail down to the right. Due to safety reasons, they closed the trail down to the right. The trail down to the right led you to Lily Creek. Although Lily Creek is no longer, you can see the area where Lily Creek was. Down there where those light-colored trees are now. I used to go down to Lily Creek, often with my mother, Mako. So my late mother, Mako, felt terrible about her illness. So she imagined that if she could drink the water from Lily Creek, that she would be cured. And so I took her down there one day, and she wanted to drink the water, and I said, I don't think you should. She got nervous, but she felt bad about her existence. And I would take her for walks down to that creek to brighten up her day. I'm now going to show you how I used to get to school. I attended 3 different schools in Sudbury: McLeod Public School, and then Gatchell Public School, and then back to McLeod Public School, and then finally to high school, Lockerbie Composite High School. Fun fact, but I saw my very first car accident from my apartment number 418 right here at this bend. It was a clear summer day, and someone crashed their car right here. They must have been drunk or high, I don't know. So this is the way I used to walk to McLeod Public School and also to Lockerbie Composite Secondary School. It's the same path. For Gatchell Public School, I was bused, and I'll show you Gatchell a little bit later. So this is Regent Street in Sudbury. I walked along Regent Street till I saw these rocks on the left-hand side. After the rocks, there used to be a little walking trail. Oh my goodness, the little walking trail is still there. I saw my first garter snake on this trail, and I got so frightened. But later on, I guess I realized it was harmless. So I'm just following the trail now, and right at this spot is where I saw the garter snake. You can ignore those people up ahead, they weren't there. I was always completely alone walking down this trail, and I felt so good just walking down this little trail all by myself. I felt proud, and I felt unique that I was able to manage this little path to the school. I guess I would do anything I could to boost my low level of self-esteem. There's this flat rock to the left, and I would imagine that I was going to build a little cabin on that flat rock. There would be my wooden cabin, and I would live there all alone. Or maybe me and Mako, not my dad. Carrying on along the trail, now going down the hill. When I went to McLeod, I went to the right, and when I went to high school, I would go to the left. So first, I'm going to show you McLeod. That's that red building to the right. And I would walk along this trail, this path right here. It was paved. So again, as I walk along this paved path, ahead is McLeod, and behind me is the high school that I attended later when I was a little bit older. So ahead is Walford Road, and I had to cross that road, and back then there was no crosswalk. There weren't legal crosswalks or anything, any safety things for kids back then. Every kid just took his life in his hands whenever he went out walking somewhere. There was also no school crossing guards back then that I remember. So this is me at McLeod Public School in the 1971 yearbook. McLeod Public School has changed a lot. It was just a one-story schoolhouse back then. I dislocated my elbow here, right in the spot where the parking lot is now. I was fighting with a kid and my left arm popped out. I'll describe what happened a little bit later. And this is me in the 1972 yearbook. So again, this is where I dislocated my elbow when I was 12 years old. It was for the second time. And because that was the second time, I had to go in for surgery. And that's why I have a huge scar on my left elbow. Surgeries were so primitive back then, I was in the hospital for a month with that surgery. About 3 years before I dislocated my elbow, I attended Gacho Public School from 1969 to 1971. I had to take a bus to Gacho Public School. I had my best teacher ever at Gacho Public School, Mrs. Roy. She was the first teacher that encouraged me to feel proud of myself. I started believing in myself because of that teacher, and I'll never forget her. And I'll never forget that it's always so important to have a really good teacher in your life. So this is Gacho Public School, and this was the play area. And back then, there was no super stack. So the school used to sit right behind Coppercliff, right behind the Inco smelter. And the sulfur fumes were just terrible coming into this school. No plants could grow, and your lungs would burn from the sulfur smell. Then they put up the super stack, and after about 2 years, Sudbury started having trees. You can see the Big Nickel in the distance right there. And down there is the village of Coppercliff, Ontario. You see the Big Nickel now? And there's the super stack. It started in 1972. Before the super stack, there were just those two smaller stacks on the left. I'm now going to take you back to that little path, and I showed you McLeod before. This time, I'm going to go to the left and show you my high school, Lockerbie Composite High School, and this is it. Now I'm going to show you a little bit about the jobs I had when I was growing up. I used to deliver flyers to all 3 buildings you see here, including the building I lived in, this one. By the way, when I picked up my bus to Gacho Public School, I picked it up right from there, right at that lamppost. I was paid cash, $4, to deliver to all 3 buildings. But I guess I wanted to make more money, so I wanted to get a paper route, and so I took on a paper route. The Sudbury Star newspapers would be delivered to this confectionery just to the right. I would then carry all of those newspapers up this street. This was called Nepewan Drive. The Sudbury Star made me buy the sack that I had to carry the newspapers in. Plus, I had to pay the Sudbury Star for the newspapers. I was 10 or 11 years old doing this. I think it's illegal today to make a 10 or 11-year-old kid work like that. Now, the problem was that I went to collect for the newspapers and I got a little bit shy and I would take no for an answer, and a lot of people stiffed me. So at the end of the week, I didn't have very much money. From what I remember, I'd make about $7 a week. That's up from $4 a week delivering flyers. Notice this street, Nepewan Avenue. It's one of the upscale streets in Sudbury. So the people that were stiffing me were some of the wealthiest people in Sudbury. I guess I learned a lot of lessons delivering the newspapers. I also got a lot of exercise. The street was about 2.5 kilometers long. So I had to walk 2 kilometers to pick up the newspapers, carry heavy newspapers for about 2.5 kilometers, and then retrace my steps all the way back home. So at age 10 or 11, I was walking about 9 kilometers a day, and about 2.5 of that was carrying a heavy sack full of newspapers. This yield sign was the end of my paper route right there at Walford Road. Now we're going to go back to my high school, and again, this was the view you were seeing before. Now this was the main side of the school, and what was amusing to me is this was the students' parking lot. The teachers didn't park here, it was the students. So that was intimidating, being a grade 9 kid and seeing students that were driving cars. There's the logo for Lockerbie Composite School. Now you know why the Minnesota Vikings were my favorite team in the NFL when I first started watching. Up ahead to the left is the main entrance to the school. And over there on the right was the main football field and I guess soccer field as well. It also used to be the main area for the gym class. When we would take gym class, we would do it outside here in this area. I think I had my first date with a girl sitting there on the grass just beside those trees. Her name was Heike Korf. I don't think we ever even touched. I was too shy and too unconfident to do anything like that. There again is the main entrance to the school. The gym area is coming up just to the left. So these were the gym doors to the gymnasium, and the hallway that we'd be let out by when we had to go out during gym class outside. To the left was a basketball court, and many afternoons after school I would practice basketball all alone and shoot some baskets. This is the end of the football field, and now you can see the other end way over there as you saw before. This coming up to the left is the door that I would leave high school from. Just to the left there, I would walk out of those doors and turn left to go back home. And home was back through this way. It was a lot shorter than that other trail I took before, and a lot of people use this trail. That's why this trail is more worn. I do have many memories walking up this trail, and almost half the time I had a friend to walk with, and that was neat. I was making friends in high school, especially in the later years. So I was always walking alone to school that other way that I showed you before through that other trail. Now what we would do is we would go down this trail, and there was no fence that you see there. That is private property. That is the property of the next apartment building. It's one of the buildings that I used to deliver flyers to. But of course there's a fence there now, so I can't cross there now, but there was no fence before, so I would just cross across that parking lot of that apartment building and head home. It was a lot shorter than the trail I would use in the morning to get to school with. I'll show you a bit about how I used to get into the high school. This is the back of Lockerbie Composite School, and you can see that alcove with the red door. And just over there are a set of double doors, and those are the doors I would enter the school through. It was secluded and I was too shy to go through the front doors. My parents moved from the apartment building to their own house in 1979. In June of 1981, I left the Army and I moved back in with my parents for a year until May of 1982. This was my parents' house, 2226 Josephine Street. I really wanted to leave after I moved in with them. I really wanted to live on my own again. So I had the opportunity to finally leave in May of 1982, and I took it. After I left, I did come to see them, and here's a picture from 1985. I think this is a photo Laura took when we came to visit them. Now, when I lived with my parents from 1981 to 1982, there was a racist family right across the street. They would put up signs saying, "Packy, go home." The guy would come out and say, "Packies are taking our jobs." And they lived in that gray house right there. Now, back then, there was no hate crime, so you couldn't call the police to complain unless they actually assaulted you. Now we fast forward to November 1991, and this is the Sudbury Memorial Hospital. Mako went into the Sudbury Memorial Hospital to get diagnosed. They informed her that she was going to be dying very soon. I didn't want to believe it, so I brought Avery to see Mako for the first time. This picture was taken at the Sudbury Memorial Hospital. They sent Mako back to her home, and we went to see her one last time in mid-November of 1991. I made a breakfast for her, and she told me it was the best food she ever ate in her whole life. She was so grateful to see us and to hold her granddaughter, Avery. That's the last time I saw Mako alive. She seemed so content. She died 5 days later. That's the end of this video. Stay tuned for my next one. I hope you enjoyed this one.